This is a long awaited video. I'm excited to bring it to you. I'm geeked up because this is the first video where I get to talk about the 21 days that changed my life, right? This comes from a very special place because, like I mentioned in the last video, I've been a big boy my whole life. I carried around a lot of weight. I played football back in high school. I was the big dude. I played O line, right? I tried my spot at center. I did tackle. Eventually, I landed myself as a guard, right? Matter of fact, I was a pulling guard. I was always athletic, kind of quick for my size too. Don't get it twisted. Like I get going downhill and I knock the wax out you, right? But as I graduated high school and moved forward, that same activity didn't keep up because I was at work and the weight started to add up. And as things started to add up, you know, the thought process is that this is just your life. This is what you have to deal with. This is my burden to bear. I mentioned that in my last video, right? And I was going through my day to day actions. And as my health started to deteriorate, I just accepted it. You know, I didn't really know what was happening to me. It was just, I had to deal with it, right? As I started going through heart palpitations, as I started going through knee pains, as I started to go through different aches and pains, being tired, fatigued, things like that. It was just something that I dealt with. And I dealt with it because I thought that's what I had to deal with. I've always been accepted as a big dude. In school, I was the funny guy. Out of school, I was either the quiet one or I was the guy that had the great personality. They never stopped me from doing whatever it is I wanted to do, right? I was always out there, but I was just the big guy. And I never really thought too much about it. But the people around me used to always tell me that I had to do some things to change my life. My mother, especially, she was always on me. Three, that's what they call me, right? Because my name, I'm the third in my family. Three, you need to lose some weight. My pops, he would tell me, oh, he would, fathers are a little different. He would call me a lard ass, right? But you just kind of accept it from him, right? But they were telling me these things that, you got to lose weight, you got to do this and that. But you don't want to listen to those things from the people around you. You just kind of take it with a grain of salt and you move on. But one day you hit this moment of enlightenment. And lucky for me, I was able to get there because I never had surgery to get to the point that I'm at today. Um, I was just fortunate enough to be at work and be around some people who were doing some things differently that I found interesting. And in the last video, I explained how their name was the trifecta, right? But their names was actually a young lady by the name of Ingrid, Zori, and Rebecca, right? I was in the break room. I was eating my lunch, and they were in there. And one of the young ladies said that she had a headache because she had been fasting and she was couldn't wait to get to a certain time so she could eat something and she would be okay. So now, me being in the break room like a fly on the wall, I overhear this and I decide that I'm going to try something. So it was early January, just after my birthday, January 4th. So I want to say like January 7th, 8th. Um, I go into work. It was a Tuesday and I don't eat. I say that I'm going to go on this 24-hour fast. I just jump off the porch. And let me tell you, it was the worst day of my life. But this was day one. I'm going through the day. I start getting hungry. I start getting angry. I'm not myself. I'm short with people. It was just a long day. It was just terrible. And at some point, a young lady by the name of Ingrid came to me and she said, "Big man, are you okay?" And I was like, "Nah." I said, "You know what? I don't know how you girls do this with this fast. It's crazy. It's insane. Why do you do this? And she laughed at me, like really laughed at me. And I'm like, what are you laughing at? She goes to explain that you're doing it wrong. And this is where she starts explaining to me about if you're gonna start fasting, you need to pick certain times of the day where you decide that you're gonna eat. So she broke down the different intermittent fasting things, and she didn't call it intermittent fasting. She just said eat between a certain amount of time. And she referenced that she had eaten between the hours of 11 and 7, and that gave her a 16-hour fast, and that's where she would eat. She went on to explain to me how she had cut sugar from her diet and she cut carbs from her diet, and these are the things that helped her lose weight. Now, as this is being explained to me, the young lady by the name of Rebecca comes in and she shows me a picture of who I believe was her niece. And her niece had lost a significant amount of weight. She showed me a before and after picture. And I said, okay, I think this is something that I could subscribe to. I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot. So I start day 2 and I don't eat carbs. I cut the sugar from my diet, so I'm not eating candy. I'm not drinking sodas. I'm not drinking juice. I'm not eating fruits. I cut it all out. It's really strictly meat, vegetables, boiled eggs, and broccoli. That's really what I was eating. And I went through that first 7 days, and it was hard. Like I didn't feel satiated whenever I ate. Um, I needed to get to the break room to eat something whenever 11 o'clock got there, because it was just hard going this time where you're used to eating early in the morning. And then you get to this point to where you need to eat at 11 o'clock. And you did anything you had to do to get to that break room to eat something at 11 o'clock. And that first 7 days was hard. Let's get into the second week, the next 7. It got a little bit easier. It started to become a little bit of a routine where I wasn't rushing to get to the break room at 11 o'clock. It was just like I knew when I had to get there, and I would eat my meal. Again, broccoli is heavy in my diet, boiled eggs, egg salad, just anything that didn't pertain carbs to get into my body is what I was eating, and water was a heavy part of my diet. In this time, I started to Google sugar-free diets. I started to YouTube sugar-free diets, and I came across a lot of content that was telling me, oh, you need to cut these things out of your diet. But I came across a page. It was a YouTube page created by somebody named Dr. Berg. And as I looked at his channel, he broke everything down piece by piece. And this was what it was crucial to my success in losing my weight. When he broke these things down, it made it make sense to me, right? Because he explained what happens to your body when you do this. He introduced some things that you could add to your diet to make the diet go better. He introduced things that just made the overall experience of having a low carb diet more manageable. But in the 7 days after the first 7, the 7 that got me to 14, it became a lot more manageable. Now, fast forward to the last 7, day 15 through 21. In these days, I actually scared myself a little bit because there was times where I would go to work and I wouldn't get hungry at all. It would just be me being at work, and I would be up until the 11th hour where I haven't eaten for the day. And I had just started eating because I felt like it was the right thing to do. But again, sticking to my diet, low carb, right? Meat and vegetables. That's what I did. And it was enlightening when I would go to YouTube and I would see a Dr. Berg channel, and he would say, well, you're not going to be as hungry as you used to be because now your body is getting used to not eating, and it's using the fuel that it has been storing for all this time. And everything just started to click and make sense. But here is what made me a believer. Before the 21 days, I went to the doctor, and the doctor weighed me. You know, that's what they do before they take you to the back. The scale went to 350. When I stepped on it, she tried to get a weight. It couldn't weigh me. So her words to me were, we're going to just jot down 350 plus. So I was over 350 pounds in this picture over here. I don't know how to get there. 350 pounds. You talking about an ego blow? That was it. But even then, that wasn't what made me start my diet. I really say that I was in the right place at the right time. And I heard something that sparked an interest. And then I took it and I ran from there. On day 21, I had a scale that I went and bought. I hooked it up in my house. It took some batteries. I think it was three double A's. I put it together and I put it down on the floor. I stepped on this scale and it read 324 pounds. I kind of had a confused look. You know that look you get when you're confused? So I stepped off and I stepped back on the scale. It said 324. Still not believing what the scale said, I stepped off and I stepped back on. And it read 324. At that point, I think I was a believer, but I still wasn't sure. So I decided to run it another 7 days. Now we're going on a 28-day challenge, right? On day 28, I stepped back on the scale, 319. At this point, I'm a believer. At this point, I'm a believer. I wasn't going to the gym for hours. I wasn't running. I wasn't walking. I just changed the way that I eat. I cut carbs from my diet. I chose the times that I was eating. And naturally, I wasn't hungry as often as I used to be. And weight was falling off of me. I was a believer. So I share this with you because it took 21 days over here. Let me find out how to get there. Let me go over here. It took 21 days, right? I got to figure out where that 21 is. It took 21 days for me to become a believer that I was on to something that was going to change my life. I cut sugar out my diet. I cut carbs out my diet. I changed the times that I was eating. And weight was just coming off of me like nobody's business. Mind you, I had done many diets before. I failed at it. But this particular time, I decided to commit to something. And I really think that the difference is I committed to it. I committed to something for 21 days. I saw results. And from a 21-day challenge, I became a believer. Not only did I become a believer, I adopted a lifestyle. And I think whenever you get to the point where you can take a diet from being a diet into a lifestyle, this is where you're going to achieve your results. This is where you're going to find your success. For me, my success came after the 21 days, but it took for me to have the mental strength to commit to something for 21 days. It may be different for others. I'm not saying that everything is cookie cut, but what I'm saying is this: if you commit to yourself, you stick to a plan, you build structure, and you go, you will get results. And I'm living proof. If you look at my backdrop behind me, I talk about how 21 days changed my life. These 21 days literally changed my life. Not only do I feel better, not only do I look better, my family feels it. And that's what's important. The feeling you get from running around with your children without being winded, taking your children to the park, having them do what you do and they can't keep up with you in your upper 30s. Listen, looking at the changes that comes along, your body changes, your attitude changes, mental clarity changes. This is my story. My living, breathing proof that if you commit to anything, you can change where you're at. And just like in the last video I said, if you stand in the mirror and you don't like what's looking back at you, you get up and change it, you can do it. Because I was able to do it, I know that you can do it. And if nobody else is standing in your corner, I am. I need everybody to go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to this video. Come back next week. I'll tell you what happened on day 22.